For as long as humanity has existed, we have been driven by an insatiable curiosity, a yearning to look beyond the confines of our home. From the earliest days of civilization, we looked to the sky, wondering what lay beyond the clouds, the horizon, the vast oceans. And for as long as we dared to dream, the stars above us seemed both a destination and a mystery. Mars, always a dream, always just out of reach, became the next great challenge. The ancient philosophers, the scientists, the dreamers of the past had speculated, but they could only imagine. By 2035, the dreamers were no longer just theorists. They were astronauts, engineers, innovators. The Pioneer was not just a vessel. It was a lifeline to the unknown, carrying with it not only the crew but the collective will of every person who had ever looked up at the sky and wondered, what if? The journey was long, months in the silence of space. The comforting hum of the engines, the rhythmic pulse of life support systems, the subtle vibrations underfoot. These were the only markers of time for the crew. Yet, the loneliness was palpable. They were so far from Earth now, so far from everything they had known. Their families, their homes, their memories, so distant, so unreachable. And yet, as the crew sat in the quiet of the spacecraft, there was an undeniable bond between them. They shared not just a mission, but a purpose, one that stretched far beyond their own lives. They were the pioneers, the ones who would open the door to a new era, not just for themselves, but for the future of humanity. The journey was not just physical. It was a passage through history, a journey into the unknown that would leave a permanent mark on our species. The moment the Pioneer touched the Martian soil, the air seemed to stand still. The silence was unlike any the crew had ever known. For all the months they had spent in space, this moment of arrival, was far beyond anything they had ever prepared for. Mars was no longer a dream, no longer a mere image on a distant horizon. It was real. The dust, the red soil, the lifeless, barren land, it was all here. The crew stood, their boots sinking into the Martian soil for the first time, and it was as though the planet itself was watching them. The vast, unbroken expanse of Mars stretched out before them, a silent witness to the achievement of this small, fragile crew. But as they looked out across the Martian plains, they were not alone. They carried with them the hopes, the aspirations, and the dreams of all of humanity. This was not just a mission. It was a birth, a rebirth, the beginning of something new, something that would echo across the centuries. In this moment, standing on the surface of another world, they could not help but reflect on how far humanity had come. The stories of ancient explorers who crossed uncharted seas, the pioneers who ventured into the unknown wilderness of Earth, they had set the stage for this. And now, they too were part of that legacy. As they looked out at the barren landscape, they understood that they were the first, but they would not be the last. This was not just a moment for them. It was a moment for all of humanity, forever immortalized in the vastness of time. And so, the work began. Mars was a harsh, unforgiving world, and yet, here they were, carrying with them the blueprint for human survival. A world without air, without water, without food. A world where every breath, every sip of water, and every grain of food was a product of human ingenuity. The habitat modules arrived, each piece an essential part of the puzzle. The shelter that would protect them from the cold and the radiation. The oxygen generators that would breathe life into this barren world. The solar panels that would capture the weak light of the Martian sun. Each piece, a piece of their future. It was hard work, laborious, exhausting, but it was a labor of love, of hope. They were building something that had never been built before. Not just a home, but a bridge between worlds. And with each piece they unloaded, they saw the vision of humanity on Mars take form before their eyes. They were no longer simply humans. They were the architects of a new era. This home, this base, would serve as the cornerstone of human civilization on Mars. It would be a testament to human perseverance, to the desire to push beyond the boundaries of Earth and to forge a new destiny among the stars. In a sense, they were no longer individuals. They had become part of something much larger, an enduring legacy that would echo through the ages. As the habitat took shape, it was easy to forget the immensity of what was being done. From a distance, it was just another shelter, a structure of metal and glass, stark against the Martian backdrop. But as the crew worked, day after day, tirelessly building and assembling, something profound took root. This wasn't just construction, it was creation. The transformation of a barren planet into a home. Their home, and by extension, humanity's home. Each wall, each piece of machinery, each life support system was not simply a physical structure. They were emblems of human ingenuity, of our ability to adapt and thrive even in the most inhospitable of environments. In their hands, the dry Martian soil became fertile ground for the seeds of a new civilization. As the Martian night fell, the temperature dropped, and the shadows of Mars stretched long over the land. Outside, the winds howled, but inside the dome, there was warmth. The crew, gathered together for their first meal, shared more than just food. They shared memories, stories, laughter, and beneath it all, a quiet understanding. This was not just survival. This was life. They were living here on Mars. The world they had imagined for so long was no longer a dream. It was their reality. And though the walls of their home were thin, their connection to each other, to Earth, and to the future of humanity was anything but fragile. They were the first. The world that would follow them would be shaped by their perseverance, their courage, and their shared vision. In that moment, they weren't just astronauts. They were the architects of a new civilization. And their home was no longer just a building. It was the heart of something much greater. The horizon before them stretched on for what seemed like eternity. The winds of Mars whispered across the land, and yet there was a quiet assurance in the stillness. The base, now standing strong against the Martian backdrop, was just the beginning. In the years to come, more would come, more settlers, more families, more dreamers. Cities would rise from the dust. The barren plains would be transformed into thriving colonies. New lives would be lived on this world. And though Mars was silent now, one day it would sing with the energy of humanity. But for this crew, for this moment, they had done more than simply survive. They had made history, and that history would echo through the ages. Mars was not just a new home, it was a new hope. And from this hope, a new future would emerge. In the silence of Mars, humanity had found its voice. The first human home on Mars was not just a shelter, it was a bridge to the stars. A testament to what we can accomplish when we dare to dream beyond our limitations. And as the crew stood beneath the Martian sky, looking up at the stars, they knew that this was only the beginning. The journey would continue, not just on Mars, but throughout the cosmos. Because once we take our first steps into the unknown, we are never the same again. Humanity had come to Mars, and Mars had, at last, found its home.